Tonight on the Black Channel. How do you discourage white supremacists from practicing white supremacy just a little? Just make a few consequences in the meantime. Just a few. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting superfortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media. And this is the Black Channel, and I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college and university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, folks, you know, it really doesn't take a whole... White supremacy is a very cowardly religion, a very cowardly practice, and it really doesn't take a whole lot to break them down. It really doesn't. But white supremacy operates on a code. That's where its strength is, its power is its ability, and its willingness to galvanize itself around a code. And when that code is reliable and enforced, that's the difference. You see, white supremacy isn't one individual going off committing a crime, an act of hostility or violence against a black person. White supremacy, racism, is a systemic practice. If it weren't upheld by a system, then it wouldn't be systemic. But it has, you're not fighting an individual. You're fighting an entire group, collective, an entire society. That's what you're up against. Y'all remember years and years ago here, the Duke lacrosse players, Mike Nifong was accused of catering to black folks too much. Some young white males were accused of assaulting a black female. And very quickly, I mean, everybody from the local TV stations to damn me 60 Minutes kicked into overdrive to investigate the case and to prove that version of events did not happen, that they were innocent. Amazing, while black men are sent to jail behind Lion Becky's every single day. But all right. Not only, however, did they find evidence to support that these fellas had not committed this act, they then did something you never hear about. They went after the prosecutor, Mike Nifong, took his legal credentials, put him in jail. Something that you told black folk just can't happen. And yet, lo and behold, when white folk are concerned, when white people are behind the 8 ball and they don't like it, then all of a sudden you find all kinds of powers that you claimed you didn't have previously. All the stuff you tell black folk, oh, that's just fantasy talk you're giving. The system doesn't allow for that. Well, what do you know? Lo and be damn hold. All of a sudden, things that you told us up and down, oh, you just can't do that. That's fantasy. The system doesn't allow that. You damn sure found a way to get that through on Mike Nifong immediately. Then when it comes to black folk, you went right back to saying, oh, well, that was an anomaly there. You know, we can't get that done for y'all. Amazing. Amazing, isn't it? No, white supremacy is not amazing. How do you discourage white supremacy? You discourage the practice of white supremacy by putting some consequences into it. But going after the police is not enough, which is what you always said. Folks years ago were saying we couldn't get this kind of thing done, and now you're seeing it happen here. Going after the police is not enough. You have to go after police, prosecutors, judges. You have got to go after everybody. You can't just go after just the police. You can't go after the police for shooting somebody and then leave the prosecutors who try to protect them and the judges who try to exonerate them all in place. you gotta get them all. Like Pokemon, you gotta get them all. You gotta clear the Roach Motel all together. You gotta fumigate the whole damn thing. Everybody gotta go. That is why you see this article that has come up now here on your screens, and ex-prosecutor indicted for misconduct in the Ahmaud Arbery death investigation. They say death investigation is murder, damn it. It's murder. He didn't just fall over. He was gunned down. They say Attorney General Chris Carr on Thursday announced the indictment of former District Attorney Jackie Johnson, who was strongly criticized over the way she handled the Ahmaud Arbery case. Johnson was indicted on charges of violation of oath of public officer and obstruction of a police officer. The charges, as alleged in the indictment, are related to the investigation surrounding the deadly shooting of Arbery. Quote, "When I received the news, I was at work," said Thea Brooks, Arbery's aunt. "I was very overjoyed because this is a step closer to justice for Ahmaud. It's not a conviction, but an indictment is going in the right direction." Now, of course, it is not justice because the only real indictment would be one that ends with her swinging in the gallows. Be that as it may, they are talking to the state of Georgia, not the state of Jason Black. So, unfortunately, that's the way it goes. The article goes on to say, specifically, the indictment in full at the end of the article accuses Johnson in February 2020 of violating her oath as district attorney, quote, "by showing favor and affection to Greg McMichael during the investigation." Johnson also failed, quote, "to treat Ahmaud Arbery and his family fairly and with dignity," the indictment states. It alleges that after Arbery's death, Johnson sought the assistance of Waycross Judicial Circuit District Attorney George Barnhill, and after disqualifying her for office, recommended Barnhill to the Attorney General's office for appointment as the case prosecutor without disclosing that she had previously sought Barnhill's assistance on the case. Quote, "I just knew something wasn't right with that because they should have been arrested," said Arbery's aunt Carla. "Because if someone else, they would have been arrested the same day, and there would have already been a court hearing and everything for them. But it always worked out on time, and I just thank God that she had been indicted. If convicted, the violation of oath of public officer is a felony charge that carries a sentence of 1 to 5 years. The obstruction and hindering a law enforcement officer charge is a misdemeanor that carries up to 12 months. Unless, of course, you're black, in which case it could result in a life sentence." That's me on that last part there. They go on to say, "Our office is committed to ensuring those who are entrusted to serve are carrying out their duties ethically and honestly," Carr said in a prepared statement. "While an indictment was returned today, our file is not closed and we will continue to investigate in order to pursue justice." Gregory and Travis McMichael, a father and son, and their neighbor, William Rhodey Bryan Jr., are awaiting trial this fall for chasing and killing 25-year-old Arbery last year as he ran in their neighborhood outside coastal Brunswick. Jury selection is scheduled to start October 18th. Attorneys Ben Crump, Lee Merritt, as well as Arbery's parents, are planning to hold a virtual news conference Friday. So that is the news as it came down here. And there's a lot involved there. There's a lot involved. But to be totally honest with you here, like I say, these are things that usually don't take that long. Not usually. But you have to stay on the case for it here. Power is not given, power is taken. And these are things that they told folk just simply couldn't happen at all. The civil rights generation would tell you that this was never possible and could never occur. But folks out there understand that people took to the streets and started uprising because they were not going to tolerate more of the same old same. That's the difference that was made. That was the difference. Now, there is a story from WSB TV in Atlanta. There is a story from them that I want you all to listen to here tonight. because what this really does is this really emphasizes how much this heifer never should have been anywhere involved in this. That this wasn't just one, it's never a one-time incident. It's never a one-time thing. It is always a pattern of behavior. Always a pattern of behavior. And they usually wait until there's bodies all over the damn place. And that's exactly what occurred here. So what I want to do is I'm going to play the story for you from WSB-TV Channel 2 in Atlanta, and hang on to your hats.
Case is reminding us of some of the faces, some of the agencies who we've investigated over the years here at Channel 2.
Those stories centered around corruption and misconduct. Channel 2's investigative reporter, Nicole Carr, joins us now to break this down. And Nicole, there is a lot to this.
There is, and over the past 5 years, we've done some deep reporting in the same area where Ahmaud Arbery was murdered. This is a story about the same players, the same problems, and now growing outrage.
When I first saw that this case happened in Glynn County, I immediately thought back to other cases where the DA's office and the police department collaborated a little too closely with each other to cover up for some of the officers' misconduct.
So the stuff that black folk been saying all along, all of a sudden you see people jumping up and saying, oh yeah, that's exactly what we've been talking about here. Okay, just amazing. But we've been the only ones saying this the entire time. Now all of a sudden everybody else is on board. All right.
My reaction was simply, here we go again. Here we go again.
Our 2015 joint investigation with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Now I want you all to watch this next part right here. Watch what you're seeing on your screen when they begin talking.
And the police department.
Particularly about the woman who is on the screen there. I want you to listen to this next part and watch on your screens here. And you are being forewarned, there is going to be, of course, shocking video here.
Yeah. Here we go again.
Our 2015 joint investigation with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution revealed a deal Glynn District Attorney Jackie Johnson made with the officers responsible for this. The 2010 fatal shooting of Caroline Small, an unarmed woman shot through the windshield of her car by 2 Glynn County police officers. 4 former...
I don't do this to be salacious. I don't do this to be offensive, but I do this because I want you to understand that what you're seeing here is not a movie script. It is not just some innocuous video. This is the police killing this
officers' misconduct.
The Atlanta Journal-Constitution revealed a deal Glynn District Attorney Jackie Johnson made with the officers responsible for this. The 2010 fatal shooting of Caroline Small, an unarmed woman shot through the windshield of her car by 2 Glynn County police officers. 4 former prosecutors from Johnson's office said she protected those officers.
It has affected me very deeply in that regard, in that someone was very brutally killed unnecessarily, and nothing has been done about it.
Today, 2 county officials alleged.
Well, I gotta tell you, as a black person in America who's traveled to and through Georgia many a time, I've seen a bunch of black folk get murdered, brutalized, killed, and every type of human right violated all this time. We've been watching this happen to black folk for decades, and this is what we've always warned you of. How the hell do you think you're going to give them the powers to violate our rights and then simultaneously think that they're not going to sit up here and grab you too? We have to keep reminding people here. Oh, yes, I'm going to go ahead and go there and say that.
Unarmed woman shot.
I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. I said this after Trayvon Martin. Remember, I warned people after Trayvon Martin. You need to understand that the first slaves, the first chattel slaves, as it were, in European society were white women. They were the first ones who were legally property. And then when they decided to start colonizing the world, they were like, okay, let's go ahead and expand that. But you've forgotten where your place was in the pecking order. And telling yourself that, oh, well, don't worry, they jump on the Negroes for a while here, the coast is clear for me. It's like, oh, no. They say charity begins at home and spreads abroad, and so does domination. Domination begins at home also. So just understand, you thought you were just empowering them to violate us. And it's like, oh no, it emboldens them to go ahead and go after everybody. That's what it ends up doing there. That was the thing I was talking about the entire time.
A 2015 joint investigation with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution revealed a deal Glenn District Attorney Jackie Johnson made with the officers responsible for this. The 2010 fatal shooting of Caroline Small, an unarmed woman shot through the windshield of her car by 2 Glenn County police officers. 4 former prosecutors from Johnson's office said she protected those officers.
It has affected me very deeply in that regard, and that someone was very brutally killed unnecessarily, and nothing has been done about it.
Today, 2 county officials allege Johnson's office blocked the arrest of her former investigator and his son after Ahmaud Arbery's murder, and her former investigator.
These 2 right here, do they not look straight out of Central Casting? Do they not look like extras from the cast of Deliverance? This is your law enforcement specialists in Georgia there.
In that regard, and that someone was very brutally killed unnecessarily, and nothing has been done about it.
Today, 2 county officials allege Johnson's office blocked the arrest of her former investigator and his son after Ahmaud Arbery's murder and before she recused herself from the case.
After multiple calls back and forth, the investigator was told by her assistant, a man named Rocky Bridges, that no arrests were to be made.
Well, Johnson is denying the claims, blasting the officials, and blaming the former police chief who is facing his own indictment now. It's all reminiscent of problems we've investigated in South Georgia over the past 5 years.
You would think, given their history, they would immediately call in the GBI for any shooting related to law enforcement at this point, whether present.
Not so, call in the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. So, all right. Is that supposed to be an improvement?
Or former.
In Small's case, our investigation found Johnson agreed not to show the grand jury the murder indictment she drafted. Records show she'd already given the officers' attorneys all of the evidence, and she allowed the officers' department to present this factually inaccurate animation they created showing Caroline's car escaping through a gap and running over the officers. The grand jury cleared those officers.
They again went out of their way to protect Corey Sasser from the consequences of his own actions, instead of protecting 2 people who were pleading with them to put him behind bars. And what happened? He executed.
Fast forward to 2018. One of those officers murdered his estranged wife and her boyfriend despite a domestic violence probation violation and standoff with police. He came back to the county he was banned from and made good on a promise to kill before killing himself. Johnson would then ask the GBI to investigate whether Sasser had help from law enforcement in tracking down his victims. The GBI found he did. The guns came from a Brunswick Police Department officer, Sasser's son, charged for aiding his father in the murders. Now to 2020.
Basically, within 24 hours, the Glenn County Police were told by 2 different offices representing District.
Did you all get that?
And she allowed the officers' department to present this factually inaccurate animation they created showing Caroline's car escaping through a gap and running over the officers. The grand jury cleared those officers.
They again went out of their way to protect Corey Sasser from the consequences of his own actions, instead of protecting 2 people who were pleading with them to put him behind bars. And what happened? He executed.
Fast forward to 2018. One of those officers murdered his estranged wife and her boyfriend despite a domestic violence probation violation and standoff with police. He came back to the county he was banned from and made good on a promise to kill before killing himself. Johnson would then ask the GBI to investigate whether Sasser had help from law enforcement in tracking down his victims. The GBI found he did. The guns came from a Brunswick Police Department officer, Sasser's son, charged for aiding his father in the murders.
So what you end up with here
well, Johnson alleged
is a situation where
today, 2 county officials allege Johnson's.
you got Another father and son duo, by the way. So basically, these quote law enforcement families, families in law enforcement, and yet another father and son duo that this woman has been protecting here the whole time. And now you see the parallels, and boy, I'm telling you, she protected them before, and off they go to commit murders, and we haven't even investigated these two sterling examples of humanity. But yeah, she covered for one guy, kept him out of prison. Next thing you know, he goes and guns down the ex-wife, boyfriend, offs himself. Wow. That is a direct response of what she did. Direct response. Direct response. And remember what our brother Professor Black Truth has always taught us here. White supremacy understands that it has to be willing to have sacrifices on their side in order to maintain itself. In order to maintain itself, it's going to have that. You're going to have that. So it really doesn't matter if the victim is white here. Are we upholding the code? Doesn't matter if it's another white woman. We are here to uphold the code. Just understand that is what the code really is. That's what it really is. It's that. It's that.
To put him behind bars. And what happened? He executed.
Fast forward to 2018. One of those officers murdered his estranged wife and her boyfriend despite a domestic violence probation violation and standoff with police. He came back to the county he was banned from and made good on a promise to kill before killing himself. Johnson would then ask the GBI to investigate whether Sasser had help from law enforcement in tracking down his victims. The GBI found he did. The guns came from a Brunswick Police Department officer. Sasser's son, charged for aiding his father in the murders. Now to 2020.
Basically, within 24 hours, the Glenn County.
Oh, brief aside here.
He came back to the county he was banned from and made good on a promise to kill before killing himself. Johnson would then ask the GBI to investigate whether Sasser had help from law enforcement in tracking down his victims. The GBI found he did. The guns came from a Brunswick Police Department officer. Sasser's son, charged for aiding his father in the murders.
So, this guy, the father, the cop, had assistance. He had assistance in finding his ex-wife, so he could kill her. He had assistance in getting his hands on a gun. By the way, do you remember anybody trying to question me about the proliferation of guns on the streets in Atlanta in the last year? And when I said, well, you should first and foremost look at so-called law enforcement, remember when I said that and you had individuals trying to say, oh, that's conspiracy theories and it doesn't work that way and whatnot, and why the police don't go off and do things like that? Why remember that? Why that was treated as a conspiracy theory? Why that doesn't occur? Well, no way. You're talking like Gary Webb and all that. No, that doesn't happen. Why the police aren't out here arming people, and they're not just getting their hands on guns and off we go. That's not occurring. Remember? Well, here we are showing you, and certainly the prosecutors wouldn't be in on it. This wouldn't all be a part of that. When black folks say this all the time, we've been saying this now for decades, that they've been bringing in the drugs, they've been bringing in the guns. Every time they want to increase the prison industrial complex, they flood the streets with guns and drugs, sit up here and put a bunch of criminal individuals, all of a sudden they all get bail and bond. They get bail, bond, and a gat. That's what they get. They get guns, they get released on bond, and then they get armed. Amazing. It's like they're walking out of jail. They give them, a pair of shoes, a bus ticket, and a 9mm, fully loaded. And we're being told this is just happening out of nowhere. That they're just doing this. These guns are popping up out of the street out of nowhere, and literally, if the news channels actually do a damn investigation, you start finding out immediately. Oh no, the police are slinging guns out here like hotcakes. If you take a look at that, you start tracking these guns, they go out like hotcakes. If you start tracking the shooters, they go out like hotcakes. If you start looking at these prosecutors, these judges, just like they always choose the right coons to put on the jury when a black person, when they want to exonerate the police for murdering a black person, they also know the right vote to pick to put them back out on the streets, give them a gun. Okay, this is going to send up the damn murder rate real damn quick. And then we'll have our justification to go ahead and slap on whatever draconian laws we want. Lo and behold, what do you see happening? In Atlanta, Kasim Reed, their trusty pet Negro, wants to run for mayor of Atlanta again. And what is he saying now? We need to worry about law and order. A black male, and they're saying that he's going to go in and enforce law and order. New York City, Eric Adams, vote for me, former cop. I'm here to enforce law and order. Tom Bradley, Los Angeles, California, vote for me, former cop. Here to enforce law and order. People, I'm just here to do what the black media is supposed to do. I'm connecting all the dots for you. This is an old playbook. I'm telling you, this isn't new. This is an old playbook that they keep recycling. This is an old playbook. If I wasn't here to be able to just run down the names, the cities, all these places, take a look across the country, Georgia, New York, Los Angeles, we can go down the list here. Chicago will be next. Chicago will be next. Mark my words, Chicago, you're on the list too. So just understand this all goes hand in hand. They line up, they stack up the dominoes so they can knock them down.
Investigate whether Sasser had help from law enforcement in tracking down his victims. The GBI found he did. The guns came from a Brunswick Police Department officer, Sasser's son, charged for aiding his father in the murders. Now to 2020.
Basically, within 24 hours, the Glenn County Police were told by two different offices representing district attorneys that no arrests were to be made.
Two commissioners said Friday that based on conversations with the interim police chief, Glenn County investigators were initially blocked by Johnson's office from making an immediate arrest in the Arbery case. Johnson denied it and said in a statement that the interim chief indicated the former Glenn County police chief made a mistake in not calling the GBI in. That former chief is John Powell, in charge during the Sasser murder-suicide case, and now facing an indictment with several other officers in a sex scandal involving a narcotics informant, a case Johnson did go after.
Really?
An indictment with several other officers. The investigators were initially blocked by Johnson's office from making an immediate arrest in the Arbery case. Johnson denied it and said in a statement that the interim chief indicated the former Glenn County police chief made a mistake in not calling the GBI in. That former chief is John Powell, in charge during the Sasser murder-suicide case, and now facing an indictment with several other officers in a sex scandal involving a narcotics informant.
This is the police, people. This is the police. This is your district attorney. These are the folks in charge of, quote unquote, enforcing and upholding the laws. Forget the damn folk out here breaking them. These are the folks in charge of enforcing and upholding it. This looks like a damn menagerie of the Joker's henchmen from Batman. I mean, if you didn't know better, you wouldn't think this was Georgia State. You would think this was Gotham City. With this amount of corruption is almost comical at this point. It's almost laughable. It's like, is there anybody in this damn place who is not a degenerate, a white supremacist, or an outright buffoon? Is there anybody here who isn't? Apparently, that's a requisite to get a job here. You all tell me. I mean, take a look at, and this is just what they got caught doing. This is what they got caught doing. How much have they been doing all this time that they never got caught for? How much have they been doing that they never got caught for and never got indicted for? This is just what they got indicted on. How much have they been doing that they never got caught for? How long they've been doing it? How much bigger stuff? This is what they got caught for. How much bigger things they do that no one ever even questioned?
A case Johnson did go after.
It's the culture that goes around it about law enforcement.
You think?
Officers in a sex scandal involving a narcotics informant, a case Johnson did go after.
It's the culture that goes around it about law enforcement, sticking up for law enforcement.
As Shakespeare wrote, there is something rotten in Denmark. There is something rotten down there.
All right, so Nicole joining us live again. Let's go back and forth here a little bit. I want to go back to the original prosecutor, Jackie Johnson. Why didn't she call the GBI into this?
Well, George, all I can do is take you back to her statement tonight. And she says, hey, prosecutors don't have arresting power, right? So she says she did the right thing by notifying the state AG and then connecting the police department and the next prosecutor.
Okay, so there are connections, though, between one of the men arrested and then that second prosecutor.
Yeah, connections all over this. That second prosecutor, George Barnhill, he recused himself because his son worked with Johnson and the senior McMichael in the DA's office. But before he recused himself, as he was doing that, he noted that he didn't see a reason for arrest of the McMichaels. He defended the citizen's arrest and self-defense claims that they had made. Then you get to the third prosecutor, the GBI this week. They see the same video that we see leaked online. And just like that, we went through the timeline at the top of the show. They see the probable cause and make the arrest immediately. And we need to remember that here in Georgia, the GBI has to be called into a case, right? They can't just go out looking for cases saying this is something we can investigate. Our legal analyst, Esther Panich, says this might be something that lawmakers want to take a look at when they return to the legislative session when it comes to the process and how they can be brought into these things.
So many layers here on the Kokar Law.
About the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, I will say I do challenge that last part about what powers they have to interject themselves into a case. I actually will take issue with that. I'm actually going to take issue with that part of it there. I don't think that is a 100% anatomically correct statement as far as what they, as far as how they can elbow their way into a case if they wish to. But I wanted to play that for you right there. That's on WSB TV there, Channel 2 in Atlanta. As you can see there, the relationships are incestuous across the board here. Somebody in the chat room said it's like Batman, all right, but not just Gotham City. It's like Arkham Asylum. Yes, imagine Arkham Asylum running your local police department. Welcome to the world under white supremacy. Here you go. Do you realize how long Black people have been subject to injustice and brutality under these circumstances here? Do you understand how long that's been going on? That's the thing I really want you to take a look at. How long that's been going on. Now, had this been a Black person as the district attorney, they would have had them in handcuffs years ago. They never would have made it this far. They never would have gotten this far. They'd never been able to do any of this. If this were a Black district attorney, none of this could have gone on for this long. Hell, you couldn't have had a police chief wilding the hell out like this for this damn long. Never could have happened. They would just follow that nigga around and collecting evidence. This never could have occurred. Never in life. It couldn't have happened. But this cartoon caricature environment happens to Black people all the time. And it's been happening. And they keep releasing these white supremacists out there and whatnot until they finally go and kill, a bunch of people and whatnot. So they got to go kill a bunch of folk. And it was completely foreseeable, and they get protection by the system. This is why transferring people around is so damn dangerous. Transferring them around is dangerous because this is what's been happening. They've been out here killing folk. They've been out here spreading guns. They've been out here terrorizing, and they've been out here protected. They have been protected all of this time. That's what emboldens them to think all they can do is hop in a pickup truck and go kill some folks. He's literally saying to himself, kid, I know the damn district attorney. We done killed a bunch of people already. Ain't nobody gonna ask no questions. We've killed a bunch of people already. We already killed a bunch of people here. We don't have to worry about that. You sitting up here thinking this is a different day at the office here. No, we done killed a bunch of folks. You just gonna be the next one today. That's it. That's it. That is all. We've been setting it up. We've been running juries. We've been stacking the deck against everybody. We've been doing that. We've been setting it up. We've been, rigging the juries and rigging the grand juries and creating and fabricating evidence and fabricating testimony and, when necessary, offing witnesses. We've been doing that, man. That ain't new. You go jogging through our neighborhood, but we've been offing people. We've been running this system however we want to. The anomaly isn't them killing an unarmed black person. The anomaly is them getting arrested and indicted for it. That's the anomaly. Business as usual is what they've been doing. That's what they've been doing. And these are just the ones that got caught, folks. Come on now. Come on down to Marietta. Come on down to Macon. I can start naming places all over the damn place. Come on down anywhere you want. Come on to Smyrna. Y'all don't want to get me started. This doesn't begin and end in New Brunswick. I can name places all. My folks who live in Georgia know, we can name a whole bunch of damn places. Along 10, 20, and then you start at 75, 85, we can just get, it doesn't matter where you go. Once you get off in the woods, and that's not very hard, that we can name a bunch of places. That's not new. This is just the one you got caught in, and it took national attention to get that. How many others have already been killed and murdered and dismissed with no repercussions? And no questions being asked before now? How many has that already happened with? And everybody's dismissed that. Just understand, if you really want to discourage people from practicing white supremacy, it's not hard. The laws are already on the books, is the case and the point that I've been making forever. We don't need new laws, news training, or no damn thing. Enforce the laws that are already there. Our mission of justice has simply been the laws are already there. They already got laws where they can indict you for walking down the street with your shoelaces untied and give you a life damn sentence. The laws to prosecute these corrupt cops and these corrupt prosecutors are already on the books. These aren't things that need to be done. You don't have to contact the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. The laws are already there. What isn't happening is the enforcement and execution of those laws. Now, that's what isn't happening. And that's why people had to take to the streets, because we understand the law. Y'all can do what you want to do. The laws are already there, and if you are not going to protect our rights, we'll protect them ourselves. We'll protect them ourselves. All of a sudden, folks start getting motivated then. All of a sudden, they start getting motivated. So if you want to stop the practice of white supremacy, you want to discourage it, make them real uncomfortable with practicing it. Either from the judicial system or from the street, one or the other. But when they start getting real uncomfortable doing that, then you're going to see those practices stop. We're going to go ahead and take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, we'll be discussing this story and more. Before we do, I'd like to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal or Cash App. Thank you to my man, David. We appreciate that. Miss Starr, I see you over there. Thank you very much. And a big shout out to Miss Heidi. You know who you are, and to everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program, especially you, Miss Heidi. Thank you very much for your support here tonight. When we come back, we'll be discussing this story and more. This is the Black Channel.
Within us is a powerful spirit, a God-given spirit. It's a spirit that empowers us to oppose demonic white supremacy. A spirit that motivates us to eradicate racist lies with Black truth. This spirit was alive during the rebellion of 1811. The spirit catapulted us towards righteous justice. This is the spirit our opponents fear. Is the spirit of 1811 alive in you? Visit us at spirit-of-1811publishing.com. Buy our novel, War of the Heart, on sale today at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Spirit of 1811 Publishing. Our story, our family.
you tired of being overcharged and forced into paying a monthly subscription for your Mac and Windows software? Well, if you are, currently we're having a 50% off discount on all the latest Mac and Windows software, such as AutoCAD, SolidWorks, Photoshop, Microsoft Office, and much more. Our 50% off discount will be ending soon, so be sure to text us Need Software to 323-407-8214. That's 323-407-8214. We aim to please, so expect 24/7 technical support, the latest premium software, instant software links delivered to your email, and PayPal's buyer's protection guarantee. As a bold, black, beautiful woman, you need to keep your beauty polished. We understand you are busy building your empire. And so, we bring you what you need to your doorstep at the click of a button. Beautify Beauty Delivery Service delivers your products within 2 hours, guaranteed. Subscribe for a flat fee, enjoying numerous benefits like faster delivery, beauty guides, free delivery, and exclusive deals. Go to www.beautifydelivery.com and get your shine on.
Subscribe to Beautify Delivery today. Get your beauty supplies delivered to your door in under 2 hours.
My name is Black Ice.
And I'm Keys, and we're the Black Narrative.
We are a Black First and Hebrew Israelite channel on YouTube that broadcasts live every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every week, we discuss controversial issues and challenge false narratives that are created in Black youth through mass media. We share research through videos and encourage uncomfortable conversations amongst the Black community.
Our show features topics such as exposing fact checkers, the racist history of medical research, the origins of so-called Black Greek fraternity organizations, the origins of HBCUs, and much, much more.
Look up the Black Narrative on YouTube and look at our website, www.theblacknarrative.tv.
Shalom.
Are you looking to take charge of your health? P23 Labs offers the best at-home DNA testing programs shipped straight to your door. We offer tests designed specifically to alert you to the best diet, medication, fitness, sleep, and stress information tailored exactly to you, allowing you to determine the best ways you can live a healthy life to the absolute fullest for only $99 a month. Right now, get 1 month free for everyone you refer. So take charge with P23 Labs personalized testing for better health.
Are you a Black male sailor or former sailor who received any type of counseling services, even if it's one visit at Navy Fleet and Family Support Center? Are you willing to confidentially share some of your experiences? If so, please go to the website below and complete the 15-minute survey. On the survey, please answer yes to the question, did you receive services, in order to get to the 15-minute survey. We would like to know about your entire experience, so please check yes to the question, did you receive services? The survey is part of a doctoral research project conducted by Walter Kelly. Your anonymous replies will be aggregated in his published dissertation at the University of Pennsylvania. Additional information about this project is located at the website below.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening as we are discussing discouraging, practicing white supremacy in the context of the news here, of course, that Jackie Johnson, the former district attorney who was trying to cover up for the McMichaels who murdered Ahmaud Arbery, is now facing indictment. Of course, it can never be enough. It can never ever be enough because that is not justice, truthfully. But certainly when folks have to think twice about those things, it certainly does make it a little bit harder for them to do so. So what we are doing here tonight is that is what we are discussing. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead. I got a few other things I want to cover here. But while I'm doing that, let me go ahead and just open the telephone lines for you here now. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the Blackest radio program in existence. The only one that is kind on planet Earth today, as we are discussing discouraging white supremacy here. And this is the kind of thing that, like I say, the civil rights generation told you couldn't happen, wasn't going to occur. You young niggas is crazy. Y'all just talking for nothing. This, that, and the other. And lo and behold, then you go ahead and you start seeing those kind of things happen. And it really does beg the question, well, what was standing in the civil rights generation's way? And And then they're going to start coming to you with the excuses about it. And I don't want any of you to accept those excuses. That is the thing. I don't want you to accept people's excuses, because they are going to bring you their excuses so long as they think you're going to accept them. And I don't want you accepting excuses. I don't want you accepting that. I want for you to be as vigilant about this and to understand that we are going to get what we push for. We're going to get what we demand. We are going to get what we force them to give up. They're not going to give us anything. If you sit around and tell them that all you want is interracial sexual access and an Xbox, well, they're going to go ahead and make sure you have that. They're going to make sure you have that. And if you let them know that absolutely nothing short of absolute justice is going to suffice, you're going to get that too. Now, you're going to push a little bit harder for that second one, because that requires the concessions of power. And power usually depends on you to just sit back and be lazy and accept things the way they are. But just understand, a lot of folk were telling you this kind of thing could never happen on Black people's behalf. This is the kind of thing that could never occur. And now, lo and behold, there it is. There it is. Do you think some folks, if you get a couple of more wins under your belt like that, do you think folks are going to think twice about that kind of thing going forward? And by the way, you don't see Stacey Abrams' big bloated face nowhere around, do you? By the way, where is Stacey Abrams? Where is Senator Warnock? Where are the Democrats' useful political shills? Anybody found? Anybody seen them? Where are they at? Show me where these folks who claim that they're leading the discussions on Black folks' issues in Georgia. Why don't you show me where they are right now? I'd like to see where some of them are. I haven't seen any of them showing their faces here. Hadn't seen anything like that. I wonder what happened. Maybe they got busy. I don't know. Maybe Stacey Abrams is stuck under a jelly donut. Who knows? In any case, we're going to go ahead and open up the telephone lines here now. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your access code to the Black media. Let's go ahead and take a few phone calls here. Let me get caller America 559. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Well, my name is Martin. I'm calling from Fresno.
Okay, Martin, you're calling from Fresno?
Yes, sir.
All right, what's on your mind?
So I'm trying to understand, Jason, when it comes to white people getting off code, is this a form of white people getting off code when these types of cases go through? And for the Black Democrats that aren't coming out to say anything, would that be a form of them getting off code?
Well, no, I mean, they're on code. As far as the Black Democrats, they are always on code with their white masters. Being off code would be them calling out white supremacy. So no, that's not the case. Now, as far as the dominant society is concerned, you ask a very good question in that regard. Is this getting off code? And the answer is not really. No, it isn't. And the reason why it isn't, not yet it isn't, but the reason why it isn't is because, understand, from time to time, you're going to have to do these things. First of all, she's no longer district attorney anyway. That's the first thing. So it's not like you're removing her from office. She was already gone in the first place. But as far as her facing consequences for her actions, truth be told, it was long overdue. She had already made a lot of enemies in a lot of other areas. That's the first thing you gotta remember. As you can see, take a look at how easily they were able to find a whole bunch of people bringing out the pitchforks for her. So she had already made a lot of enemies in a lot of other areas. Just like Governor Cuomo up there in New York, Andrew Cuomo had already made a lot of enemies in a lot of places. Just like Elliot Spitzer before him. To knock off a governor, it takes a lot to knock off a district attorney. It takes a hell of a lot to knock off a governor. Remember, Ralph Northam is still in office, or at least he was. He's still in office there. So it takes a lot to knock a district attorney off, and a hell of a lot to knock off the governor. And the only way that happens if you have enemies who are willing to actually go after you. So in this situation, she had enemies who've been waiting for a while for an opportunity, and it finally did coalesce. So you've got a situation where you're taking somebody who's already they were already thrown to the wolves. They're just now publicizing it. She was already thrown overboard.
Absolutely.
You know, she was already thrown overboard. So it's not really doing a whole lot for somebody who was already tossed overboard. Now, what will be off code is if they start talking about white supremacy. Now, that would be off code. But right now, just understand, white supremacy is an organism that's constantly, I've taught you all for years, is an organism that's constantly in the process of reconstituting itself, reorganizing itself, reassuring you that what you saw isn't actually what you see. Just remember, at the end of this, because at the end of this, what would you naturally be able to conclude? Well, ain't no white supremacy. I mean, because there are folks who will fall for that. Let me go ahead and show you exactly what I mean. There are people who will fall for that. In the video here in question, I'm sure folks have said this before, you can see what happened here. This is the woman who was killed by the police there and whatnot. And what will they tell you? What they will tell you is, well, she got gunned down and she was a white woman. Now, that's what they'll tell you. Well, she was a white woman. And look what happened to her. So you have a white district attorney. And first of all, nobody's, I would like to hear about white on white crime, by the way. But anyway, she's a white woman, and take a look at what happened to her. So white police officers gunned down a white woman. Isn't that proof that there is no systemic racism? Which, just like, well, Oprah Winfrey is rich.
Have to say it.
Well, Oprah Winfrey is rich. Isn't that proof that there is no systemic racism? And then you got the cop who goes off. Not only did he kill them, he's gone off, and then he goes and murders his ex-wife and her boyfriend. She's white, so is the boyfriend. So a bunch of white folk getting killed all over the place down here. And just understand, for them to bring all of this up now, in the midst of the Ahmaud Arbery case, I want you to connect the dots here. To bring this up now, a decade later, basically, to bring this up now, in the middle of the Ahmaud Arbery case, don't you see you're setting up the argument to say, well, it's not a racial issue. This is an issue of prosecutorial misconduct. She's been doing stuff like this. So we're going to remove her, but don't y'all get out in the streets and get turned up anymore. But understand, this wasn't a racial issue. She's been a problem for a while. Okay, if she was a problem for a while, why the hell did you do something about her before now?
Yeah.
If she really was this big of a problem for a while, it's not a racial issue. Why is it they have to kill Ahmaud Arbery? We take to the streets, and all of a sudden you do something now. So very clearly what she'd been doing all this time didn't really bother you that much. It didn't motivate you and mobilize you that much. So just understand the chess game being played here. We're going to knock her off because she was too damn blatant this time. So when you act, I've said all that to tell you that, is it being off code? Yes, not really, by not really, I mean not the way you think. She was the one who was off code. And the reason she was off code was because she was too damn blatant. Wow. You were too blatant. You made it too obvious. What you did is too provable. White supremacy has to be invisible. And you made it too obvious. We can't argue our way through this. So we gotta knock you off now. We gotta do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how we think about it. Now you gotta go because you made it too damn blatant. Now the next question becomes, by the way, who did they replace her with? Did they replace her with a Jason Black, or did they replace her with yet another version of her? And the beat rolls on, and they all sit there and understand. Well, it's like
we already know what they're going to do.
It's like football. We lost it down, but we had to, so we're going to go ahead and recover on the next play in the next quarter, and that's the way that kind of game goes. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Very good question in that regard. So yes, somebody was off code, all right, but not the way you think of it. I'm glad you called him about that, so that can be explained to you there. She was the one who got off code in that she was too blatant. You were too damn blatant. Everything before now, we had it nice and smooth over. Hell, a fella was able to sit up here and off his ex-wife, ex-girl, ex-wife and her boyfriend. He was able to pop the both of them. Nobody indicted her before now. Now, all of a sudden, all this dirty laundry that they've known about now going on a decade, they're all of a sudden motivated and mobilized to do something about it now? With Ahmaud Arbery? No. Keep your eye on the ball. Don't let them take your eye off the ball. this is a racial issue, and they are showing you that they understand that this racial issue by trying to muddy and cloudy the waters and to tell you, oh, she's been messing over everybody. Okay, but if she's been messing over everybody, why didn't you do something about it before now? It was only once we started talking, all of a sudden, ooh, let's go in there and do something. Just understand what the game really is. Call from area code 706. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is Bomani, calling from Augusta, Georgia.
Bomani from Augusta, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question about the corruption that you're speaking of in the, in the police departments. Have you ever seen any correlation between like those brothers that were killed in Ferguson after Mike Brown, and also with like both of Gene, like the week after?
Understand something. Folks start disappearing. Folks start getting mysteriously killed. You're tossed in the trunk of a car and burned up. So yeah, brother. I mean, just understand that I'm from Louisiana. So we got tales we can tell you there. But absolutely, we need to understand that. And that's why I'm bringing up this case right here, where you can see there's obvious misconduct, where everybody's sitting around saying we all know what the hell happened. And yet you have district attorneys covering for it, police chiefs covering for it. So that's really what it becomes. But do I see a correlation between it? Absolutely. These folks don't move unless folks get galvanized for that. They don't move unless they get galvanized for that. So if folks have gotten, just honestly speaking here, if these things, well, the real thing is, I can't say if they had gotten more galvanized because folks are already in the streets out there and whatnot. But what they're looking for there is to see, in a situation like that, what happened in Ferguson and whatnot, when they killed the brother up there and threw in the trunk of the car or whatever and burned it up and stuff, folks were already in the streets at that point. Folks were already in the streets. The beef was on at that point. The beef was on at that point. After George Floyd, the beef was on. The beef was on at that point. Our thing is about us being aware of it and having an apparatus to speak about these things, to understand that that's what's happening. But everybody's got to be on guard, brother. That's the other thing. Everybody got to be on guard. You got to move like that. You got to be careful with the folks you deal with, especially if you're active out here in these streets. If you're active in these streets, if you're a person who's known, if you put in work, if you've done a lot, you got to keep your eyes and ears open about the folk who are around you. Be careful where you're going. Be careful when you going. Just understand that. You need to be cognizant of that. Absolutely. Because white supremacy is looking for easy wins all over the damn place. It's looking for easy wins, man. They're looking to get you however they can. There was a reporter on MSNBC, I think during Hurricane Ida here, and in Mississippi, random white man jumps out his damn truck and runs up in his face and starts pushing him and yelling at him and whatnot. You got Instagram models. Zaddy is killing folk all over the damn place. Brother, they're going to get you. These are crimes of opportunity. And the real issue is it's not just a result of one or two things. White supremacy is constantly trying to avenge its L's. One of the things I didn't get to cover here last night, I'm very glad you mentioned this. I didn't get to cover this last night when I was talking about Herschel Walker. In this article about this woman who was stalking Herschel Walker, and CNN said Herschel Walker stalking them. Crazy and insane. But here's something I want you to remember. CNN is sitting up here telling you about these events and telling you about what was happening here, and this is around the time of 9/11. Brother, this was just a few years after O.J. Simpson was acquitted. Just a few years after O.J. Simpson was acquitted. Now, don't you think if there was evidence to put another big nigga from the NFL on trial, Herschel Walker would have been in court lickety split? That's your proof that nothing happened. After OJ, brother, they was looking for anybody who'd been on TV that they could indict after that. So don't you know if there had been another big nigga, another big lineman, another big running back they could have put on trial for anything? Herschel, he'd have been there. So just understand that album, that thing is always running. So O.J. Simpson, who, as you know, O.J. was nothing by the time we get to the 90s. I mean, he was like a bit player from, what was that, those Naked Gun movies or whatever. And that was it, dude. O.J. Simpson, he wasn't no major celebrity. When the media got done with him, you would have thought this fellow, was Michael Jackson and Tom Cruise rolled into one. Trial of the century? What do you mean trial of the century? Brother, they didn't give that kind of exposure on 9/11. They didn't give that kind of exposure to the terrorists for 9/11. That wasn't the trial of the century. O.J. Simpson was. And then we come to Bill Cosby, trial of the century part 2. I'm seeing a disturbing pattern here. It's only a trial of the century if it's a black person that you can hold up publicly and go after that way. Michael Jackson, you know, when it's black folk on the trial, they understand it's trial of the century. When it's white folk, no coverage. So just understand.
Yeah, you want to hear that about Jeff Epstein?
Well, just know this. This is an album. This is a motif. This is a riff that's constantly playing. They're constantly trying to avenge their L's. From O.J. to Michael Jackson to whomever, they're constantly trying to avenge their L's. So, on the one hand, I could tell you, is there a correlation between those things? Yes, but the correlation is that we're in a race war already. The race war is on right now. It doesn't require a specific shooting or a specific event in a specific city at a specific time. Brother, it requires from the year 1493 forward. And whenever there's an L that they've taken, they're constantly on the guard, constantly on the watch to avenge those. Black folk been turning up missing, mysteriously killed. You know, the judge up there in I shouldn't say judge in New York because there's been several of them. Black judges getting killed. Black judges getting murdered under some mysterious circumstances. Oh, they were depressed. What the hell? They were depressed and went down to the river and drowned themselves. Really? Who does that?
Yeah.
They were depressed and shot themselves in the back of the head 3 times. What? So just understand.
Yeah, that's not any investigative journalism on that.
No, it's not new, brother. This is an album, and this is a riff that keeps playing over and over again. We're constantly looking at these things. There are folk getting killed right now that we're not talking about. Thank you very much for getting us a call tonight. It's not new. There's folk getting killed right as I speak that we're not talking about. Call from area code 409. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Rashad. I am in Houston, Texas.
Rashad in Houston, what's on your mind?
Yeah, my man, like you were saying earlier about no matter what city you go to, you can find these stories. The city I was born and raised in, I'm actually from Beaumont, Texas. There was about 45 minutes north of me. There was a national story. It's a story that made national headlines in the very end of the 90s. Everybody knows about James Byrd Jr. got drunk behind the pickup truck until he was dismembered by these two white supremacists. Well, there was another story about 6 or 7 years ago in the exact same city. Didn't make national headlines. There was a black man that was found. He was found naked in the woods with one of his ears severed. Same city, Jasper, Texas. No arrests were made, and when they did end up finally making an arrest, I say no arrests were made initially. When they did end up arresting the guy, they paraded some young black kid on the television, and they said it was a marijuana deal gone bad. And anybody that knows anything about dope, drugs, whatever you want to call it, nobody that sells weed kills somebody, strips them naked, and cuts their ear off. Come to find out, when all the details came out, the black man that they found dead, he was dating a white woman whose father was clipped in with law enforcement. No white person ever was indicted, never was arrested. It was just some little teenage black kid they paraded on the television. And that's all I want to say. I'm not going to hold you.
I mean, brother, understand when you're black, they don't have to have an explanation. The folks who are in charge, of investigating your murder are usually the ones who killed you. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Yeah, I mean, the explanation is silly as hell. That's the way power works. Power isn't about identifying that they're lying. Power is like, okay, you know we lying, but what are you going to do about it? That's the question that they ask. I think we got an international caller on here. Is this from Skype? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's going on, Brother Jake? It's Brother Esteban from Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay, brother, what's going on with your phone number?
It's weird service.
And what's on your mind?
But I'm calling from area code 86. 865. Anyways, I appreciate you doing this story with regards to the prosecutors with this Ahmaud Arbery trial. Now, I do have one question. Have they actually set a trial date yet?
Well, for her, no, because they just announced the indictment part of it, so I guess they'll get around to that. Either that or give her a plea deal, one or the other. So it could go any which way at this point, but no, they just announced the indictment.
Okay. And that's what I wanted to know, which was going to kind of preface my question. If they should go with the indictment, because we already know the two gentlemen that killed Ahmaud Arbery, they're done. I think they're done. And a part of me also believes that they might be the scapegoats, if you will. I'm more concerned about, not that I think that those two gentlemen should get away with it, but I think I fear that they're going to be the scapegoats. And this prosecutor, as you said, he is going to get a deal. Because if you remember years ago, a prosecutor in North Carolina by the name of Mike Nightfall, he withheld exculpatory evidence against the Duke lacrosse players, and I'm not defending the Duke lacrosse players, but they didn't commit a crime. And so basically what I want to say is, not only should we get rid of qualified immunity for the police, but we should also get rid of it for prosecutors as well.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you're doing your job correctly, you don't need qualified immunity. If you're actually, name another profession where you need qualified immunity. Firefighters, do you have that? I mean, it's these paramedics. You don't need qualified immunity if you're actually doing your job. If you're doing your job, you're not going to need that. There's a reason why you don't hear black police officers having to make these types of defenses for themselves. Isn't it amazing? You never hear about black police officers being accused of running around racially profiling people, violating their rights, this, that, and the other. You don't hear that. How is it the black police officers are amazingly able to do their jobs on a daily basis without this becoming the culture and environment, and yet with the white police officers, this is the way it is across the board? Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get call from area code 901. You're on live with Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This brother Red out of Memphis, Jason Black.
Red out of Memphis, what's on your mind?
Brother Jason, man, I never thought I'd see the day that I say this, and I hope you don't kind of take this as blasphemy, but I think white supremacy is on the ropes, man. I think we've been taking a few W's lately, but they never let us ride that spaceship too high, because I'm looking at this story right now of a dude named Jason Roger Pope that had 693 black dead bodies, human trafficking in South Carolina. So, man,
well, I mean, there's a bunch of them out there like that. Understand something, with the cops all over the place and whatnot, we've been having case after case where folk running around killing black folk, starting with, what's his name, Michael Slager, Amber Geiger, the cop down there in Texas who killed that black teenager. They all getting 20 years and 25 years now. So they're getting numbers all over the place. Now, those numbers are not high enough yet, but understand, we went from getting no numbers to numbers being routine now. So, yeah, they understand that what they're doing there is they're seeing how many they got to throw into the bus, because they understand there's no longer tolerance from the streets for the same old same. Now, that doesn't mean that at some point they're not going to relapse and try to go back to business as usual. They absolutely will. They absolutely will. But right now, they're saying, okay, there's really not any appetite for tolerating any type of cover-ups, any type of business as usual. Absolutely no tolerance for it. So that's the thing. But here's the real thing we have to keep in mind. We have to stay on their necks about it. This is not going to be something we can do right now and then we can go back to sleep, because that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting for us to go back to sleep. They're waiting for us to talk about the next rap album. They're waiting for us to go back to what we were doing, Biden's in office. They're waiting for us to go ahead and take our eye off the ball and to say, okay, we can go rest easy. No, the new normal has to be staying on their necks. Thank you very much for giving this call tonight, Red from Memphis. Let me get caller from area code 267. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yes, you're on live. Put the pipe down. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm sorry. I'm not saying it. Yes, good evening. I'm from PA, Westchester. And my name is Timmy. How are you?
All right, Timmy, what's on your mind?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm calling. I just want to ask you two questions. The first question, I don't know if you ever heard the saying, black was a canary of the coal mine.
Okay, it sounds like you are on a treadmill or running a marathon. Either that or you are touching your naughty bits. Do I need to give you a little bit of time to get yourself together and you can call us back?
No, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Okay.
I was just wondering before. Okay.
So, she sounds very exasperated. Let's get it together. I'm hosting a program here.
All right, I'm sorry. So, everything that they do to blacks, eventually they do it to other groups. And I've been telling a lot of foreigners this about this saying. I said, you know, you need to be careful like how the way you speak about black people, because eventually they do it to others, like this baby mama epidemic. They push this on black people, and now you see it happening all over the world. With this situation, I don't know if you agree. Do you think that, like with the policemen killing black people, that you started to notice that they're doing this to other groups, or is this something else?
Okay, I don't quite understand the question. Can you try to rephrase that?
All right, so they use black people as experiments when they're doing something, or when they're destroying a culture or have power over people. Usually, they use black people they use black people first to see how it works. With this situation, with the policemen murdering people or abusing their power, do you think that I'm sorry. So do you think that they use black as a I guess?
It sounds like what you're trying to say is, are they using black people as a template upon which to see whether or not these tactics work with other groups? Answer, no. And the reason is because they don't need these tactics with other groups. The other groups already identify with their world order and their world view, so it's not necessary. You don't need these tactics with Asians. You don't need these tactics with Middle Easterns. You don't need these tactics with Latinos. You don't need that. Anybody who lives in California, Texas, Florida, and been pulled over by Latino police, and I have. Anybody who's seen it understands it's the exact same dynamic. There is no difference. So you don't need those tactics with these other people. No, these are tactics specifically for us. The other folk are already lockstep and in line and identify with them. You don't have to pacify them, nor do you need to control them or oppress them in that way.
Okay, that's it. All right. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get calling from area code 501. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is Carson. I'm from Arkansas.
Okay, did you say your name is Carson?
Karsha.
All right.
Like Marsha, so what is it?
All right, Karsha from Arkansas. We're at Arkansas.
Little Rock.
All right, Karsha from Little Rock. What's on your mind?
Well, I just believe it's white privilege, to be honest. The same thing happens here in Little Rock. A lot of stories don't hit national. We had, you know how you showed the video with the woman shooting that happened to a young black man a couple of years ago, and everyone was fighting for justice. So the cop got off regardless. And I just think it's white privilege. I think it's just the power of them just having power of getting away with it. They've been getting away with it for a while. That's just all I want to say.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get calling from area code 217. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Barney from Danville, Illinois.
Barney from Danville, Illinois. What's on your mind?
wrong with the witnesses that been disappearing, like in Ferguson and in Dallas, with the all these Amber Geiger case? What's your perspective, Jason, on all of these cities seem to have a female black mayor and a black male police captain? That's from Baltimore.
That was exactly the opposite. Actually, for being exactly the opposite in Dallas, you had a black mayor and a black female police chief. I believe it was.
But you understand my question?
It doesn't. No, I understand what you're trying to say there. Just understand they're all puppets to a degree in that regard, because these are individuals we didn't choose, we didn't select them. I've talked about this before with Kasim Reed. I talked about this a few weeks ago. There's a conveyor belt of them. It's a conveyor belt and a merry-go-round of them. So they just come circling back around again, or they got a little cycle, a little factory to create some new ones there in that regard. But those are the two positions that they seem to be most comfortable with. One of the ways in which they use, this came out of the civil rights movement, they started coming up with these token gestures. Malcolm X talked about this, by the way. So this isn't me talking about it. Malcolm X saw it when it was first happening. He talked about it then. Civil rights activists, Stokely Carmichael, these folks were talking about it then. They understood what was happening when they started, all of a sudden, the police chiefs, they started appointing black police chiefs. Powerless tokens. Understand, the police chief serves at the pleasure of the mayor and whatnot, but they're powerless tokens. So you got a black police chief, and then the situation doesn't change. Tom Bradley becomes mayor of Los Angeles, former police officer and whatnot. Situation doesn't change. Lori Lightfoot, situation doesn't change. So they perfected having these powerless tokens. Individuals that if they need to, they can knock them off at a moment's notice. Kasim Reed, they knocked his ass off. And then next thing you know, they brought, now you brought in, what was her face there? Bottom B, Keisha Bottom B. And you sat up here and brought her in, and then the next thing you know, we're going to go, just that quickly, you knocked her off. Next thing you know, you're talking about bringing Kasim Reed back. I think I just saw Kwame Kilpatrick singing in a church somewhere. I'm serious. I think they just had a video of him in the church singing somewhere. Yeah. So what I'm saying is just understand, brother, this is not new. So what they realize is, okay, police chief, that's a powerless token, but the Negroes will feel like, okay, there's one of ours there. And in reality, they're not one of ours. They're one of yours. And they're a person who already identifies with the white agenda. So that's the game they played with first police chiefs, then the mayors. That became a big thing starting in the 70s. You had the mayors showing up all over the place. Coleman Young, Andrew Young, and Mark Morial, and so on and so forth. Not Mark Morial, but Judge Morial, and then Mark Morial later. So you start seeing the rise of black mayors starting in the 1970s. So now this is to lull you into a false sense of security. Why? Certainly white supremacy is no longer a factor in your life. Like, take a look at your mayor. All this time you've been complaining about the mayors and the police chiefs. Well, Bull Connor is gone. Tom Bradley is in. So, see, white supremacy is no more. Bull Connor is out. Tom Bradley is in. So, don't you see? There's no white supremacy there. And then comes your mayors and whatnot. Mayor Daley is out. Mayor Lightfoot is in. We can go down the list. Mitch Landrieu's daddy, I forget his name. He's out. Here comes Judge Morial. But this is a game that's been playing, and it's symbolic. Well, Jason, how can we separate symbolism from substance? First and foremost, is there a black agenda? Or do you have somebody just saying, vote for me and hope for the best? Because when they talk to the LGBT community, they don't talk about vote for me and hope for the best. They talk about exactly what they're going to do. In no uncertain terms, this is what I will do. When they come to black folk, it becomes about singing, dancing, tapping your feet. And ain't it going to be a good time, and we shall overcome. Let's sing some hymns. But they don't talk to us the way they do everybody else. So it's symbolic when they're not talking to you the way they do Asians, Latinos. Let's be very, very clear. Black folk know how these people are supposed to talk to us. We know what they're supposed to say. We know what they're supposed to be offering us. But black folk as a group tend to get cold feet when it's time to insist on it. When you start getting cold feet about reparations, cold feet about a black Marshall Plan, cold feet about concrete. You niggas is always talking about getting the check. You always want somebody to give you a handout. Okay, but when the Asians' businesses took a downturn after the pandemic that came from China, no, they weren't being shy about, oh, we need some tangible concrete benefits and resources. Nobody was calling them lazy and gold diggers looking for a handout and pull yourself up. Nobody was telling them to pull yourself by your bootstraps. Just did a story last night about Gavin Newsom out there in California. And what in the world did he sit up there and say, oh, well, we need to make sure the Latinos are taken care of because they suffered because of the pandemic. Okay, nobody's calling them, looking for a handout or any of that crap. Nobody says that to them. When black folk pull up, all of a sudden we let them intimidate us and shame us into saying we don't need anything, and we're the people who are most needy. We're the people who most need concrete, tangibles, and benefits, and we let them intimidate us and shame us and get us all embarrassed and bashful about saying the obvious. That's the problem we run into. So it isn't really an issue of having black mayors and black police chiefs and black district attorneys. We keep putting people in office who we didn't choose. Individuals who do not come to the table and say, vote for me for a black agenda. We don't do that. And then they get in office and lo and behold, they no damn agenda. But brother, they got a conveyor belt of reliable Negroes in the positions that we keep identifying as trouble spots. And here's my thing. I don't care if the police chief is black or not. Don't care if the district attorney is black or not. But I do care if they're targeting black people. Because you see, we can have a white district attorney who does our bidding. And that's, as black people, we are not truly going to come into our own until we have white politicians pushing a black agenda. Let me say that one more time, just in case you thought I stumbled or stuttered on my words. Black people will not have come into their own politically until we have white politicians running for office on a black agenda, the way you got Latinos who have white politicians running for office pushing a Latino agenda. And the way that the Asians have white politicians running for office pushing an Asian agenda. They can sit there and specifically reiterate the points the Asians want, the Jews want, the Latinos want. Black people will not come into our own until we get the same kind of effect. Non-black politicians gleefully running for office on a black agenda, talking about this is what black people need and being unapologetic and not stuttering. But let's be very clear, brother. You can't expect white politicians not to stutter when they talk about a black agenda when black folk won't even open their mouths for it. Now, granted, there's more of us than ever speaking, but we can't expect white politicians to speak up for us louder than we speak up for ourselves. At best, they're only going to speak up for us 50% as loud as we speak up for ourselves. We're going to have to make it very clear that we ain't bashful. We're not stuttering. We didn't slip up when we said black agenda. We didn't slip up when we said concrete tangibles, and we damn sure didn't slip up when we said cut the check.
So you didn't stumble on your words. Did I misunderstand you earlier in the program when you said that we need to get some black prosecutors? Because I'm about to mind that Breonna Taylor, prosecutor down there, the black guy. I mean, the police and the prosecutors go hand in hand. Did I misunderstand you, or did you stumble?
Well, I certainly want more black prosecutors. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with having more black prosecutors. But I'm not really sure what you're referring to right now when you say I said that. I'm not really sure what you're referring to. But I certainly want to have more prosecutors who back a black agenda. So let me be very, very clear. I'm going to reiterate this again in case you missed it. In case you missed it, let me reiterate this again. If you really want the truth, I'm not really that concerned about the color of the prosecutor. I'm concerned about their accountability to us, because we got plenty of black prosecutors out there right now. Kim Fox, Worthy,
sure.
The heifer they just got down there in Atlanta. You got plenty of black faces in high places that are doing the bidding of the dominant society. So certainly I want, if I can have black folk in those positions, because obviously I want us to get used to holding the reins of power as a people. That's the other thing. I want us to get used to that us rate. I don't want it to be a situation where you've never had black folk have experience at it. even strictly from a societal standpoint. Even in a world where white supremacy didn't exist, I still want black people to have experience at controlling things. Just like, you want a black car company, you want a black computer technology company, you want a black advertising agency. I want us to occupy all of these stratas in the society, not simply because of it serves our social interest, but also because it serves our national interest as a people. We need to be in charge of controlling the levers of power as a people. It can't just be a situation where if something needs to be done for us, we got to call some white folk or some Asians or some Latinos. So it's a two-pronged thing. Even in a world with no white supremacy, I still want black folk having their left hand the levers of power and experience at this. Now, all that having been said, at the end of the day, J.P. Morgan, I think it was, who said, I want to say it was Morgan and not Build-A-Bear, but give me control of a nation's currency and I care not who makes its laws. Oh, was that Rothschild? Give me concern. Either Rothschild. Yeah, I think it's Rothschild. Give me concern of a nation's currency and I care not who makes its laws. Give me control of City Hall. Give me control of the district attorney's office. And I don't care who gets elected, truth be told, because I know who's going to run it. White society isn't concerned about the color of the prosecutor. They're concerned whether or not they control him. They didn't care that we were electing Barack Obama because they understood, we run his ass. Not concerned about Larry Elder in California. White folk ain't scared of Larry Elder. We run him. So give me control of those things, and I'm not really concerned about who's running it. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Okay. Having color representation is significant, but only significant to the extent that they actually, protect your interests. But this idea that we'll just get a black prosecutor simply because they're black, no, I've never advised you that. Get a prosecutor who has a black agenda. And it's certainly nice if you have folk who you've been able to vet, people from the neighborhood who you can vet if you vetted them yourself. Sure, that comes in handy. But we will not have come into our own as a people until we control the levers of power outside of black society. Because most of these threats are being organized outside of black society. So when we've gotten to a point where we control that, that becomes a better issue. That becomes a better issue. When we are able to control those things, that's when we're really able to come into our own. But it's going to take time to do that. It's going to take time. It's going to take focus. It's going to take time and it's going to take focus. But I'm just going to warn you here, don't sit up here and say, the goal is to get a black person in office. That's an okie doke. That's a trick bag that keeps getting played on us. You don't want to sit there and keep having people play you in the trick bag of, just get a black person in office and everything will be fine. That's a rope-a-dope we keep falling for. The idea isn't just get a black person in office and everything will be fine. Get a black agenda, no matter who the person is. If they're backing a black agenda, that's the way you go. In the last presidential election, I wasn't sitting there saying, we need a black candidate. No, we need a black agenda. I would have voted for Bernie Sanders if he was promoting the black agenda. Andrew Yang, black agenda. Tom Steyer, black agenda. If they're promoting the black agenda, we can talk. We can talk. Absolutely. If the politician needs to be black, okay, Tim Scott is black. We're going to support him. Clarence Thomas is black. We supporting him. Sheriff David Clark is black. We supporting him. We can go down the damn list. Whole bunch of black folk out there who would love to have your vote. Just because they're black doesn't mean we support them. Larry Elder is black. How many of y'all lining up for him? Let me take one more phone call here. Caller from area code 312. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, that guy from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay, dude, if you're on speaker or something, take your phone off. It sounds like you're calling me from the Twilight Zone.
Is that better?
What is your name? Where are you calling me from?
My name is Zeitgeist. I'm calling from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay, I think he says Zeitgeist from Chicago. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. The only thing that I have on my mind right now is what's going on with this whole abortion situation. I just wanted to know your thoughts, how it affects the Black community, and your opinion on that.
Okay. My thought is, thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We're not discussing that. All right. Let's go ahead and shut down the phone lines here. Well, brothers and sisters from around the world, like I say, we've always said that when you start inflicting consequences for white supremacy, you will see a lot less white supremacy. Those consequences will come from the bench or from the street. But once they start experiencing consequences for their actions, you will start seeing a lot less of those actions. Our job is to keep the heat on them. Our job is to keep the heat on them and making sure that they understand we take it very seriously. We want this to become the routine. We want this to become the norm. We don't want this to be an anomaly. We want this to be the norm. We want that to be the norm. In the chat room there, I want Chaz to call up. I want Chaz to call up here. I was about to log off here, but on second thought, I want the telephone line is going to remain open a little bit here longer. I want Chaz in the chat room there needs to give us a call. Let's go ahead and get him on the phone lines for my mods. I want Chaz to go ahead and give us a call here. Let me go ahead and pop the telephone number up on the screen for him so that he's able to identify that and he can go ahead and give us a call here. I want him to go ahead and call up here. Give him a couple of minutes to be on the line. Let's go ahead and give him a couple of minutes to be on the line here. The telephone number for you is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. That is your personal access code to the Black channel. We've been discussing tonight about discouraging the practice of white supremacy and how it is that consequences tend to make people's attitudes get adjusted and tends to modify their behavior. Consequences tend to do that. Consequences tend to make that occur. And as Black people, we will not be able to discourage white supremacy if there are no consequences for their actions. And what you're going to start seeing, you have to run up the flagpole. It can't just be, okay, a few police officers here or whatever. When you're being attacked by a system, it needs to be responded to by that system, is what it needs to be. Chaz, I need you to put your area code in the chat room there, sir. Let's go ahead and put your area code in the chat room. I'm not interested in talking to anybody else. Not trying to talk to anybody else here. I'm not keeping the phone lines open for anybody else. I'm only keeping them up for Mr. Chaz in the chat room there now. That's all. Just keeping them open for him. The telephone number is 646-787-1933. Let's not be shy now. In the words of Rakim, hurry, hurry, step right up. Not for everybody. I didn't say everybody in the phone. Everybody sit up here and give me a call now. Just Chaz, that's all. Area code 360, is this Chaz?
It is.
Okay, brother, where are you calling from?
DeSoto, Texas.
Okay, DeSoto, Texas, part of my old stomping grounds over there in the Dallas Metroplex. And you asked a question in the chat room.
I did. Why would any non-Black person push a Black agenda?
Okay, very good question for you to ask that. And I think the best answer I can give to that question is, how is it that white society gets Black politicians that push a white agenda?
Yeah, I mean, that's easy. I mean, it's like Samuel L. Jackson in Django. Stephen, they're all over the place.
Okay, but
so that would be easy.
But why are they all over the place?
let me understand the question. What are you asking?
You said your original question was, why would a non-black politician push a black agenda? Meanwhile, I can show you black folk. I can show you white politicians who push Asian agendas, Latino agendas. I can show you black politicians that push white agendas. Why would we not be able to get non-black politicians to push a black agenda when I can show you the inverse in every other scenario?
I guess I'm going back to they've never done it. No one's ever pushed. I mean, I guess they stick the knife in you, they pull it out halfway, but they've never. I can't think of a history where they've ever given us a break. They've always had their foot on our neck. And I just couldn't imagine why Hispanics would push a black agenda. Why would they? They outnumber us. Why would they? What are they going to gain from it?
Okay.
Why would the Asian community push a black agenda? Why would white person do it?
Okay, but you have white politicians pushing an Asian agenda, and Asians are not a numerical minority anywhere except in a number of small enclaves in places like California. And they're not a majority anywhere. And politicians routinely push an Asian agenda. Jewish people are not a numerical minority anywhere, and yet politicians are always backing a Jewish agenda. So I can show you other examples of people who get politicians to back their agendas. Why would we somehow be the exception?
We're the only ones that were slaves. We are at the bottom of the caste system. We are at the bottom of the caste system. Not in my mind, but in the world, the descendants of slaves are at the bottom of the caste system. Why would you help? Why would you help the people at the bottom, the very bottom?
Well,
where we've been.
The first thing is
to their mind.
Well, the first thing is you're not quote unquote helping them. That's the first thing. You're not actually quote helping them. Understand something. When you have an agenda, people respond to that agenda. The Freedmen's Bank is a response to that agenda. The Civil Rights Movement was a response to that agenda. You know, those were responses to us demanding things. Dr. John Henry Clark talked about this. In the 1960s, the dominant society was willing to give us anything we wanted. This is Dr. John Henry Clark. The authority doesn't come any higher than that. In the 1960s, the American social order was willing to give us anything we wanted after we took to the streets. And what they realized was we were willing to settle for integration. And when they realized we were willing to settle for that, next thing you know, their entire social policy turned towards integration. Next thing you know, you have this explosion of government jobs, things that up until that point we had never had before. So all of a sudden, the no colors allowed signs came down. You had politicians out there in the streets ostensibly, remember JFK, RFK, running around talking about how much they love Dr. King and whatnot. Trying to tell you how much they love black folks. This was back in the 60s and 70s. Back in the 60s. That's not new. That's not me coming up with this. This is before either of us was born. So politicians have been willing to do that. What has been missing is we don't get the effect of it because, we let them tell us that integration is the black agenda. Standing around with Gloria Steinem and interracial sexual access and free love and bastard kids and Section 8, that's the black agenda. So next thing you know, then they try to tell you that the black agenda should be, fighting mass incarceration, which of course we certainly should be making sure that we are not subject to that kind of thing. Sure. But talking about the black agenda is criminal justice reform. Well, everybody's not criminal. So once again, white politicians do come to us all the time claiming that they're going to do something for us. Problem, they keep coming to us telling us, okay, here's what we're going to do. So what they've demonstrated is they understand that they need us and they're in a position of bowing, but the problem is we keep letting them tell us what they're going to do. But they will do it when they see that you are serious about it. Please keep in mind, 2016, nobody was talking about reparations. 2020, reparations was on the front burner. Keep that in mind. Now, this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. But do not misunderstand. Power isn't going to just give us anything. And they will back a black agenda, But you have to demonstrate something that these other groups have. These other groups have made it clear, if you don't do their bidding, they punish you. Black people have sat up here and got married to politicians. We've gotten into our heads that if Joe Biden shows up to the damn church one damn time, then we just sit up here and give him a pass for 3 strikes, 4 strikes, and then 2 strikes and anything else. These other groups don't operate that way. Asians will sit up here and talk about stop Asian hate and then turn right around and fight affirmative action. Latinos will sit up here and tell you, about DACA and then turn right around and start supporting Donald Trump. And if you don't support their agenda, they will punish you for that. And in the chat room, you all are quite correct. And then they organize the dollars, of course. That's part of having an agenda. Non-black politicians would do the same thing if black people get on the same page. But up until recently, we haven't been unified in that way. But why would they do it? They would do it for the exact same reason they do it for everybody else. And understand something. The other groups out there don't ask questions like this. You don't see Latinos saying, well, why would Gavin Newsom do our bidding? Because Gavin wants us to vote for him and not for one of our people like that. But the difference between us and them is that they require Gavin to throw some tangibles on the campaign platform before he can get the vote. Black people sit up here and let somebody, Pete Buttigieg, somebody sit up here and tell you, we feel your pain, and if you vote for me, we'll work on it. We'll work on it. And then next thing you know, nothing happens. Joe Biden, you don't need anybody to tell you. You shouldn't have to vote for Joe Biden before you realize ain't nothing going to come from that. So, of course, you would say in that circumstance, why would this non-black politician black agenda? He never has. And it wasn't required of him in 2020. The black folk in Atlanta who voted for him were like, okay, vote for him first. You heard them calling my program. If you listen before the election, they called him our program talking about, well, I'm just believing he gonna, okay, they come with the church talk. I'm just believing he gonna be different now. He knows he need us. Well, yeah, he knows he needs you, but that's not a concession. These other groups understand that as Asians, they require you to come in and say what you're going to do for them before they'll vote for you. Jewish people have understood this since World War II. Don't even come to the synagogue if you're not going to talk about support for Israel, fighting anti-Semitism. You don't even show up at the synagogue if you are not coming in to specifically talk about that. That is a Jewish agenda. As far as they're concerned, they will tell you in Haaretz, the Forward, and any of their media, do not even contact us if you are not going to discuss specifically, not your creation of these issues, because we created them, your support for these issues. So you see, when it comes to reparations, as black folk, we've allowed it to be well, come and talk to us and we'll discuss reparations. Ain't no damn discussion. Don't even call us until you are ready to voice your support for our agenda of reparations. That's the difference. Now, the other part of that is Latinos have Latino-controlled media. Asians have Asian-controlled media. Outside of the new black media, if you go on the Breakfast Club or whatever, these are black folk who work for white corporations. That's why Hillary Clinton didn't get grilled about this in 2016, and that's why Sonny Hostin and friends only brought it up in passing after we got on their asses about it. But that's the other part of it. So a lot of these times they've been insulated from it until election day, in which case they get their asses kicked. But the discussion doesn't come at that point. But just understand, these other groups make it where these are the terms of the debate before you can even walk in the room. You can't even talk to us. Brother, you can't go to the National Council of La Raza talking about, well, for immigration and it's, we working on it. Nobody says that, man. Nobody says that. The National Council of La Raza, LILAC, none of them do that. You can't walk in the room unless you are discussing what you're going to do for them. The points that they've already said, unless you support them. If we actually did the same thing, it'd be different. What do we get? They run the NAACP and National Action Network. And then hope we all just follow behind that, which the new black media has been leading people in a different direction. But brother, that changes. Case in point, remember the billionaire Tom Steyer. The billionaire Tom Steyer. Remember, he sat there in front of the whole country and said, I heard somebody, I guess saying Jason Black would have been too damn much, but all right. I heard somebody say, cut the check. I love it when the folks say that. Somebody, all right. I heard somebody say, cut the check. Well, you know, it's not as easy as that. The hell it is. The hell it ain't. Because a few months later, y'all cut trillions of dollars for the pandemic. Yeah, you can. And you cut billions of dollars for Asians, Latinos to help them out. Okay, black folk have been suffering a hell of a lot longer. So just understand, they can do it. And if we make it a point that we're not moving until you make this the discussion. And if we stay firm about this for 2024, yeah, that's the kind of thing that moves things. But just understand, it seemed, I think what you're really voicing is that you haven't seen it before, which is what you're saying. And the reason you hadn't seen it before is because up until now, black folk have been easily bought off by symbolism. Remember, FDR died, black folk were lined up behind the casket on the railways and everything. In World War II, going off to fight for a freedom that they didn't even have. Think about that for just a few moments. Black men were going over to Europe to go fight for freedom for white people, to give white people in Europe a freedom that they themselves did not even have in America. Think about that for a few moments. And they went by the tens of thousands. Our mindset is different now. We're not talking about integration no more, man. We're not talking about interracial sexual access. We're not talking about giving us a sitcom on CBS. We're talking about real damn tangibles, the stuff you're giving everybody else. We're talking about punishing race soldiers and white supremacists, giving them life sentences and death penalties. The civil rights generation didn't talk like this. Brother, this conversation has not been going on for 100 years. This conversation has been going on for 100 months. So you're right. You hadn't seen it before because this wasn't the conversation. It just started now. Why would non-black politicians support a black agenda? For the exact same reason that they support white politicians support Asian agendas and white politicians support Latino agendas. Because when you let them know we are together, we're on the same page, we won't move until you bow to our will. When that happens, when they see you're serious, either because you stay home from the elections, you vote for somebody different, you don't vote at all, or you take to the streets when things don't go the way you want it to. When they realize one of those 3 or 4 things is going to happen every single time, yeah, then they start supporting your agenda. I'm going to leave you with this one last thought. Quentin Tarantino was trying to teach folks something in, I think you talk about Django Unchained. He was trying to teach you something. Since you referenced Django Unchained, or I think you referenced Django Unchained. I did. Quentin was trying to teach you something in that movie. If you'll remember, Candy, I did this in my review of Django Unchained. You remember Candy was talking about how his daddy and his granddaddy was his daddy used to get his beard shaved by one of his slaves for what, 50 years? For 50 years, he was shaving his daddy's beard every week. 50 years doing that. And he said, now, if that had been me, I would have slit my damn daddy's throat. And wouldn't have taken me no 50 years neither. Every day, just understand, this society has been living on pins and needles ever since emancipation. Because in their minds, if they had done to them what they did to us, there would be fires burning literally every minute of every day. And in their minds, any day now. That's why when we take to the streets, they all get spooked and scared. They're like, here it comes. We told you 150 years Reagan. This is the big one. They're just going to go. Why do you think they keep saying the same old polemic? Look it up. Why do you think they keep saying the same old refrain about Nat Turner? What is the same thing that Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson, all of them kept saying about Nat Turner? That he went from door to door killing the white folk and grabbing the kids and killing everybody. When they talk about Toussaint Louverture and the Haitian Revolution, they went door to door, grabbing up all the white folk and killing everybody. You notice this similar motif keeps playing out when they talk about black people, that we have or we're going to go door to door, grab up all the white people, and begin this mass extermination. Are they saying that because that's something they've seen from us? Or are they saying that because they are projecting it in their minds? Well, but we can't believe that you would not respond that way, because if it were us, we damn sure would have. If it had been European society, we would have wiped you all out. So we just can't believe that you are not waiting in the wings, waiting to do the same thing. And you obviously have not let the issue go, because you keep talking about slavery and reparations. So as far as we're concerned, the day of reckoning is right around the corner. And this is an unspoken fear in white society. There's a reason why you can have all these white supremacists, Ruby Ridge and whatnot, because in their minds, they're like, we got to get the black folk before they come get us. And they're going to come get us. At some point, they're never going to let this go. At some point, they're coming to get us. They owe us for 500 years. They're coming to get us at some point. And it doesn't matter if you and I never discuss it. As far as they're concerned, they're like, no, this is going to come. This is going to happen. We're just going to wake up one day, and next thing you know, there it is. So I can just understand the fact that we haven't done this all this time has led them to this idea that that's not what we really want. And if we can just get black folk to vent in some other way, get them this release valve that vents in some other way, they'll give up on this. Our job is to make sure that doesn't happen. As far as controlling the politicians, Dr. Claude Anderson has told you this. This isn't news. Dr. Claude Anderson has taught this. What we've lacked up until the last decade has been a solidified agenda. Now that we're not there yet, but we're starting to get one, you're going to start hearing politicians speak a whole lot more. Andrew Yang tried to play the role for a minute. First of all, if you really want to hear about it, take a look at Andrew Yang. He was playing the role for a minute, and you'll have others. You're seeing it happen more and more. But as far as sound like the Black Channel, that's never going to happen, really. That's never really going to occur. Just like you're never going to see white politicians talking like the National Council of La Raza. That's never going to occur. The real thing is a white politician who's saying, okay, these are the things that black people want, and this is my campaign platform. Yes, but we have to be as consistent as everybody else. Everybody else isn't fighting for integration. Everybody else is not fighting for, quote, criminal justice reform. Take a look at what they're saying is their agenda, and then don't let other people tell us that's ours. Have I answered your question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. I can understand why you would say that, but just be clear on this. Other folk have gotten that. They've gotten those things because they made it very clear what was their agenda. And up until now, the civil rights generation has conditioned the society to believe that our agenda was interracial sex, cell phones, and television. And that's what we were looking for. More representation on television. And what are they offering you today? Diversity on television. Diversity in movies. Handpicking a few Negroes so that we can put them on a pedestal and say, see, take a look at this symbolically. You can be the number one attraction in Hollywood. You can be the number one star in Hollywood. You can be the number one person on television. Okay. 40 million black folk, and one of you can reach a position of prominence, controlled prominence, symbolic prominence. But that's it. Controlled prominence, symbolic prominence. No, we want elevation for the masses. We want elevation for the people's group. That's when you start getting resistance. You start getting resistance when you talk about elevation for the group. When that occurs, then they start letting you know, start talking about everything they're not going to do. That's what makes the difference. But you will get them to do your bidding for the same reasons they do everybody else's. They do it for everybody else. In Chinatown, the white politicians back the Asians, they back the Latinos, but those other folk have a solidified agenda, and they will punish people who do not promote it, and you can't even start a conversation with them if you don't walk through the door about their agenda. They're not wishy-washy. They don't flip-flop. They don't water it down. They don't dilute it. when you come to talk to them, that's all you can come talk about is their agenda. That's it. Nothing else. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Table of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend, over 126,000 subscribers and rising. We are not a little thing. I want you all to understand that. So, make sure that you click that red subscribe button, click that yellow notification bell. Join us every weekend. This is where you need to be. And by all means, join us every time we are here. You get the news, insight, and analysis that you receive nowhere else. If you want to know why it is that the white corporate media fears us, you just heard it here tonight. And if you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go there and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., Gentrified, Race War, all available on DVD, streaming, and on Amazon. Go to blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.
Looking for a competitive edge to get more construction jobs? Lead professional certification could be that edge. Learn how to get the training and get certified at michigan.gov/leadworkforce.
It's 3 in the morning, only on J45.
First, let me just say this is, I just reached the pinnacle in my career, being able to sit down with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And you're someone that I grew up in Oakland, California. So, and I grew up in the 70s. So I grew up in a mind frame of empowerment, faith, resilience, strength, honor, respectability. And you have always signified all of those things, all those attributes to us, especially in times coming up in Oakland. We face a lot of challenges. Sometimes you look for inspiration from different places. So I can't tell you how many times just by listening to your works or listening to you speak, especially even now having worked on MTV for 15 years and being in radio for 20 years and being considered humbly a voice of this generation or hip hop culture. Sometimes you feel challenged and you need those things to kind of strengthen you. And I'll look at a speech you made or something you said, and it's always something I could take away from it that'll keep me smiling and make me feel strong the next day. So I always wanted to thank you for that. Thank you very much. Absolutely, absolutely. And I always wanted to know, I always see the minister on the podium, but who is he when he's not on that podium, when he's not on that stage, and he's not leading the people? And in my research, I found out we have a lot in common. And the fact that he started off as a classical instructed violinist, right?
Yes, sir.
How old were you when you first picked up the violin?
I didn't pick it up. My mom picked it up and put it in my hand. She was a domestic worker and very talented seamstress. And she put that violin in my hand, put a clock on the table, and had me practice 15 minutes, and then a half hour, then an hour, And she forced me to do this. I didn't like playing the violin because they said it was a kind of sissy instrument. And who wants to look like a sissy? So I would put a tam on my head like Dizzy Gillespie and throw my violin up under my arm like it was a horn and walk through the black community on my way to my lessons. But after a while, I learned to love it. And when I fell in love with the instrument, Mom didn't have to ask me to practice anymore. I drove her crazy by playing and practicing 4, 5, 6. Even when I married my dear wife, I would go in a room and tell her, sweetheart, I won't be out for about 8 or 9 hours. And it's that discipline that I carried into Islam. When I became a Muslim, I just switched the discipline from the study of my instrument to the study of the Word of God. And that's why today, I don't have to think on what to say or try to make notes and whatnot, because so much of it is in me from the discipline of study. So I'm grateful for the music, and I'm back at music now.
Back at music now, right?
Yes. You know, I have to laugh because I thought I was through with it forever. Because he asked me one day, I wrote a play called Organa, a Negro spelled backwards, because that's what we were, a people gone backwards. So in this play, I was a ballad singer, and I sang a song that I co-wrote with a brother called Look at My Chains. And one day soon you'll hear it again. And I also wrote a song after Brother Malcolm's column in the Amsterdam News, Angry Black Man. He wrote an article called A White Man's Heaven is a Black Man's Hell. And that's the way it was 60 years ago. And unfortunately, a white man's heaven is still a black man's hell. And I wrote that song and went into RCA Victor Studios in 1959 and put a soldier in the control room because the words were so hot. I didn't want the man to start messing with the dials. And that song became an underground hit in the 60s. So one day, I don't know what caused me to bring my violin out to Chicago. And after dinner, Elijah Muhammad said, play me something. So I came to the table where he was sitting and I played. And when I finished, he said, boy, you really can play that thing. And so a week later, he summoned me to come back with my violin. And he asked me to play again. And after I played, I saw this frown on his face. He said, brother, isn't that the same song you played the last time you were here? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, don't you know something new? So that meant to me, after I figured it out, get on back to your instrument. So I went back at it and played with the symphony orchestra in Chicago and Los Angeles and recorded the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto, the Beethoven Violin Concerto, and I made some songs back in the late 50s, early 60s.
They were on Billboard charts, right?
I don't know that they made Billboard, but some of my calypso songs, since my mom and my father were from the Caribbean, those songs were on the Calypso Hit Parade in New York for about 5 years. And I was happy to give all of that up, even though it was the only thing I knew. and it's the thing that I really loved. But since I was a little boy, I've been in love with black people. My mother trained me. Her husband, my father, was a follower of Mr. Garvey. My mother didn't join, she was on the fringe. But Mr. Garvey was big in his representation of the struggle of our people. And so when I heard a word that I felt could stimulate consciousness in our people and cause our people to reject the position of a free slave and arise to really become an independent nation, I was willing to give up my music to pursue that. So one day I was playing this organa. We played it at Boston Symphony Hall. We did it at Carnegie Hall. We did it at the Civic Center in Philadelphia. And we were at the Tivoli Theater in Chicago. But the last time I did it was at the Dunbar High School in Chicago. And little did I know, there were 2 shows that day, and Mr. Muhammad came out to the last show. I didn't know he was there. So I was singing this song, Look at My Chains, and I played my violin and then put the white man on trial and kind of give him a good whipping. And the judge sentenced him to death, and I was very happy that that was an honest judge. I wish we had more like that today. But anyway, he sent for me. And when I went to his home, he told me that he did not want me to play music anymore. He said, I want you to concentrate on the spiritual. He said, even though you are very good in what you do musically, your greatest talent is in the spiritual. Would you give this up and concentrate on the spiritual? And I said, yes, sir. So going back now to 74, don't you know something new? So he put me back in my music. We have an album now that brother Kenny Gamble of Gamble and Huff,
Philadelphia.
yes, he's the co-producer because he heard my arrangement of the Beethoven Violin Concerto. And from 2002, I began working on this album. And we just finished it 13 years later. Stevie Wonder is on the album, Shaka Khan, Denise Williams, Kirk Whalum, Damon Marley, Snoop Dogg, Rick Ross. Oh man, we just having a time.
You got Rick Ross on your album?
Oh yeah.
Sounds like a rap album? Sounds like a...
Well, you know what? It's not a rap album, but Snoop, he played a major part because we talked to Snoop and we told Snoop in our little talk that young people are being misused all over the world by powerful governments that will take the lives of young people who love their nation or love their country and make them think that they're doing good, but sending them to war on the basis of a lie, all because they want the resources of a nation that they could not get to unless they made the leader of that nation a demon and demonized them, then made the American soldier hate that person and then send them to war. And so it was with...
you talked about Libya? When we went into Libya.
Yes, I was very displeased with Hillary Clinton and President President Barack, because in Africa, Muammar Gaddafi was the most stabilizing force on the African continent. He is a man that built his country with some of the, great industries that he put there. Had billions of dollars spent in the desert to go down and find water under the desert, and brought that water up, and the whole coastline of Libya became green because of water, and then agriculture. And he had, I don't know how many tons of gold that he had. He was debt free, owed nobody nothing. And for Barack or Hillary or America or England or France to say that he had to go, and for Barack to tell him he should step down when the man built a country, and this country is damn near $60 trillion in debt, and you want to tell a man that's doing something that he should step down for what? And then to have him deposed and killed? No, I didn't like that at all. Barack is my brother. I love him. But when you vote for a man for president, you think he's the power. But he's not the power. The powers are those who drive the presidents, and that's the shadow government that I've talked about in my 58-week sermon on the time and what must be done. There's so much I want to say, brother, but I'll just leave it like that. I'm back in the music, but music has not softened me.